If you want to learn yoga, it's simple. You pick one of the vast number of the qualified instructors who advertise in the papers or on the internet, and away you go. Except that they may not be qualified, which is why there's a process beginning today to establish national standards for yoga teachers. The governing body of yoga, well, sort of, is the British Wheel of Yoga. That was appointed or recognised by Sport England as the governing body, and its chair is Paul Fox. And he's on the line, and with me in the studio is Swami Ambikananda, who is chair of the Traditional Yoga Association and does a lot of yoga teaching herself. Now, Paul Fox, why do we need this new set of rules or qualifications or whatever you call them?
Well, good morning, John.
Good morning.
British Wheel of Yoga trains some very good teachers, and our qualification is recognised and regulated by Ofqual at level 4, which is foundation degree level.
Right, you're a teaching school then, basically.
We're teaching and membership,
right.
But there are many other very good quality teacher training schools. I believe the Traditional Yoga Studies people are among them, and we have schools that we accredit through our accredited groups program. But there are also some poor ones, and this is the problem. And I've experienced these firsthand, where people will go on a yoga retreat for 4 weeks, often with not that much experience of yoga, and come out the other end with a teaching qualification. And you cannot become a yoga teacher in 4 weeks. Millions of people benefit from yoga. It can reduce stress and anxiety, lower back pain, poor posture, conditions like arthritis, asthma, type 2 diabetes can all be alleviated, but it needs to be expertly taught. And these national occupational standards will set a minimum of what skills, knowledge and competence a yoga teacher should have.
All right, Swami, do you accept that?
No, not at all. This is the argument being put forward. It's for people's safety, it's for public protection. The truth is, yoga is 5,000 years old, and it is the faith of over 1 billion people on the planet. And no quasi-government...
Faith as in religious faith?
Yes. And no quasi-government body can actually dictate how we now teach it. The health and well-being industry has embraced yoga because it's so good for so many people, it's helped so many people, and there's no evidence that the public now needs protection from poor teachers.
But surely poor teaching in and of itself is going to be bad and potentially harmful. I mean, I've never done yoga. If I went to a teacher who was not properly trained, not trained at all, presumably he or she could do damage.
Absolutely, and we'd like to see the evidence of that. The insurance bodies themselves, who are the guys monitoring this, are saying this is completely unnecessary.
Really? So people are not damaged by poor teaching?
There isn't any evidence.
But surely at the very least they're being cheated. I mean, you are an expert, you're acknowledged to be, and you've been doing it for how many years?
45.
Right, so you've picked up a bit in 45 years, I dare say, and clearly you know what you're doing. But if somebody goes to a teacher who doesn't know what he or she is doing, then at the very least they're being cheated. Even if they're not being harmed, they're being cheated.
You know, there are yoga schools on every corner now. Can't we rely on the canniness of the consumer?
Oh.
And if they go to one class and say, look, this isn't the thing for me, they go to another one.
Well, that's the point, isn't it, Paul Fox?
Well, John, it is a public safety issue, and there is evidence. I've only been doing yoga for 21 years, so I'm a newcomer compared to Swami. But we've had reports from our ordinary members about experiencing non-BWI teaching classes where the teacher's been teaching with their eyes mainly closed, not even watching the class. An example of a student being taken into headstand on her first ever class, injuring her neck and declaring she would never do yoga again. Teachers forcing students into postures and causing injury. There is an underlying principle of yoga, ahimsa, non-violence, and it's a bit like our version of the doctor's Hippocratic Oath. First, do no harm.
What do you say to that?
Yeah, these are anecdotal stories. I would like to see some hard evidence before you're going to actually interfere with somebody's faith, which to me is a kind of neo-colonialism. We're going to take your philosophy, take your theology, rewrite it, redraft it, and then we're going to create a law that says you can only buy it from us.
Except that you wouldn't necessarily be interfering with somebody's faith, as you put it, if the person involved was a bit of a charlatan who thought, I haven't got a job, I bet I can make a few quid teaching people yoga, I'll go and spend a couple of weeks learning the basics, and then they present themselves as experts. It's not interfering with anybody's faith, is it?
I would I absolutely agree with Paul that the kind of untrained teacher is a problem. Although I have to say, I've seen some people who've attended these 3-day courses become fantastic teachers. It really depends on
doing yourself down in a way. I mean, you spent 45 years learning how to do it properly, and
yoga is a transformative thing. So I think we have to rely a bit on yoga itself.
You're not being a bit innocent, perhaps.
I don't think any of the teachers I've trained would accuse me of that.
John, can I just say that it may be a matter of faith for some people, but for most people doing yoga in this country, it's a matter of experience. I mean, they turn up feeling maybe agitated and stressed or stuff going on in their body, and they leave their yoga class feeling much better. They're there to help themselves. It's a self-help, healing therapeutic system. And there's a really interesting book out at the moment. It's a golden age for research into the origins of yoga. And the first modern yoga class, as we would recognize it, took place on Christmas Day 1918, just north of Bombay near a beach, by a guy called Yogendra. And for the first time, he pulled yoga out of the ashrams. He said it doesn't have to be all about an exclusive spiritual journey to enlightenment. It can also be used as this very effective therapeutic tool for the masses, and he attracted a lot of people with health conditions, and that is what people want mainly from yoga in this country. It can lead on to spiritual stuff.
Well, there, I'm afraid we must end it. I wish we could talk for hours about it, but we can't. Swami Ambikananda, thank you very much, and Paul Fox
Thank you.
Also.